Now, one of the most troubled countries in our region goes to the polls today in landmark elections. The people of Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, vote in by-elections seen as a milestone in their march towards reform. Our foreign editor, Dr. Keith Suter, is here. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning.
Now, these elections are terribly significant. Why? I mean, how do you see them in sort of a regional sense as being important?
What is happening is that Burma has been isolated from the rest of the world for many years now, for at least 20 years, really. And they've got a new leader who's gradually trying to open up Burma to the outside world. Part of the process is the holding of these elections. They're only by-elections. Only 45 seats are up for grabs out of the 1,000 in the parliament.
Oh, right.
So it's really only a by-election, but it means that Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, who's the Nelson Mandela, basically, of Burma, will be able to stand for election. She's been under house arrest for 20 years. The regime has said in the last 20 years, you're welcome to leave, but you won't be allowed to return.
Yeah,
so
right.
she couldn't go to get a Nobel Peace Prize. She couldn't go back to Oxford for the funeral of her husband. So she is now going to be allowed to stand for election today. We assume that she will get elected.
She'll be elected,
she
right?
Well, we assume so, but, you know, she is saying that the elections are not going to be fully free and fair. You know, the dead are still on the electoral rolls. Others, no doubt, will be voting early and often. But, of course, for the sake of the military junta who are running the country, if she doesn't get elected, there'll be such an outrage against it that once again the country will be isolated.
They might have to rig it in her favour.
Exactly. If they've got any sense, they'll do that.
Now, there are still plenty of seats that are basically reserved for the military in the parliament, right?
Yep, the military are not handing over power today. Far from it. Ultimately, of course, she could become the president. But, of course, many of the military are still running the country. They're making a lot of money from looting it. They'd be very worried if ultimately, many years on down the track, she were to become president, then she may well behave, you know, in terms of let's put on trial the people who've been ruining the country over recent decades. So they're obviously very apprehensive. They can't kill her. Yes. They can't keep her locked up indefinitely, and yet to have her running the country would also be a problem. But nonetheless, they're sort of gradually opening up, because clearly what Burma wants is access to the international markets. They're subject to sanctions, not least by Australia and America. If they can open up, then you'll get more democracy.
Well, there's a lot of change. I mean, you know, this was unfeasible 3 years ago that we'd be having these elections, and there are all those major infrastructure projects going on, sort of setting themselves up as a hub in Southeast Asia. What is Burma going to look like in 10 years' time? Will it be a free and fair and open society?
Well, assuming that the current progress is maintained, yes, and it'll be a thriving powerhouse. And don't forget, it's also between India and China, the two major developing countries. It itself has got plenty of resources. So if it can continue on moving down this current path, then I think in 10 years' time it'll be a great improvement over what it is today.
But the people are going to share in those spoils, you think?
Well, let's hope so. That's the key thing. But as I say, under Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nelson Mandela of Burma, at long last we may be now getting a new chapter opening up. She'll become leader of the opposition as from today. So
very quickly before we wrap this, Keith, what does this mean for Australia?
What it means for us is that if the country opens up again, we can relax our sanctions against the country, and it'll go back to being a great tourist destination, plenty of trade opportunities, and of course a rising tide lifts all boats. If the Burmese become a richer country, we can attract them into Australia as tourists. They can buy our resources.
It does look like a beautiful country.
It's I'm told it's a fantastic country.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope that goes well today. Thanks very much, Keith, for joining us.